Welcome to the 615 Sessions podcast here at the Titans practice facility. We always like being back at the practice facility because it means there's football going on. And we always love hanging out with our guy, Teron Davenport of ESPN.com, the Talking with TD podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Rookie minicamp, day one in the books. Football players on a football field, TD.
Yeah, always good to have that, man. It's fun to be out there. You just got to smile thinking about it. And it's great to finally see this coaching staff interact with these players. I've been waiting to see that.
Well, and that's kind of, before we talk about what happened on the field today, because I was finishing up the radio show and then skirted on over here for press conferences, getting to meet some of the assistant coaches. You've probably had interactions with some of the guys on staff at some point throughout the course of their various stops, or, you know, in knowing things about these guys coming in. And some of them having institutional knowledge of this place, having done multiple stints here, either in Tennessee or Houston. But that is the thing that, honestly, I've enjoyed most this week, is getting to talk to Zack Woodfin, the director of sports performance.
Yeah, I didn't get to do that, but
I
saw the videos. And then you see, the stretch routine, you missed it. Like, it's totally different.
Today.
Drawn out. It was like 20 minutes.
20-minute stretch routine.
They really,
Well, let's start there because, you know, it's not like we were getting to talk to the director. You and I had met Frank Perano before and, you know, interacted off the record or whatever the case may be. But the idea that they would make the director of sports performance available in a on-the-record media setting for us to actually ask questions so that we can give answers to people who have questions about this stuff, that level of transparency, it seems to run from the top to the bottom because, I don't know, Teron, in the last month and a half, I feel like I've learned as much about what a football team is trying to accomplish here as I did at any point in the last 6 years. And that's not a shot. People do their jobs differently.
It's different,
But that transparency seems to be something that they're comfortable with, you know, before things potentially go wrong, before games are lost and, you know, things start to get a little more hairy.
I think it is really remarkable that they made Zack Woodfin available. I've been San Francisco, Baltimore, Philly, here, and never saw that before. Some of the other guys said they've seen it, which is great. It's new to me. So I think having that opportunity is big. Then you see like him talk about the asymmetric, I think it was.
The asymmetries in guys' movements because, you know, your left leg might be a little shorter than your right or stuff like that, and how they test all that.
And then you want to find out why. But then you look at the detail to which that they did the stretching. It's really the next time you got to come.
You got to watch the stretching. I've been skipping stretch for years.
It's a whole different process.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy, and it's an extended one. So I think that right there it's a change, and obviously change is something that always brews excitement. So you have that for sure.
Yeah, and the coaching staff, you know, they've checked a lot of the right boxes with the coaching staff and coming down the line with all of this stuff, and, you know, nothing. They haven't put pads on. It's all very rudimentary at this point. But starting with rookie minicamp today, I know you spent a lot of time with the linemen in particular. J.C. Latham, the first-round pick. You got introduced to Olga and Bertha, who are which are the names for Bill Callahan's specific brand of football sled, a 380-pound sled that only moves if you use the proper technique and drive through rather than lift up on a defensive lineman, because that's how you stall out. And the idea that Bill Callahan is not only working in offensive line technique, but in a little bit of physics is something that I think Titans fans were very excited to see when you guys were tweeting out clips.
Yeah, he has another sled that we didn't see them use, but there's a sled. It's a 5-man sled. So it's 5 pads like this in a circle. And I can't wait to see them use that too. But Olga and Bertha, they gave J.C. Latham and some of the other guys a lot of work. And you saw just like their first time doing it, like they didn't really understand, you know. But above all else, the detail, the level of detail and the coaching, I mean, just from telling them to make sure that they're relaxed when they strike the sled, you know, go to strike it, because if you're tense, you can't get that same power. Then just even the hand positioning, a few times he had told J.C. Latham to kind of like turn his hands a little bit lower like this as opposed to like this. It's just such a level of detail. And then even just watching every part of practice that I saw J.C. Latham, it was all from the left side. There was nothing. So they're really immersing him in making that switch. and just the detail and just starting from the foundation and building it up. It's crazy.
Well, and that's something that Bill Callahan was asked yesterday in our media availability with him, if he had any doubts about J.C. Latham switching from right to left, and he said flatly, no doubts at this point. And, not only just to kind of stick with the players that we talked to today, because we did speak to Latham, we did speak to Devondre Sweat, the defensive tackle out of Texas, and Cedric Gray, the linebacker. Didn't get a ton from Sweat because he's not really wanting to talk about his weight, understandably so, and that's going to be something that he constantly faces. But Gray in particular, I know you saw him out there running the defense with the rookies in minicamp. And kind of, I believe you called it a baptism by fire a little bit in your question today.
I'd say he got baptized.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? So I went over and watched. They did a team defense period, right? And there's another linebacker that was here from LSU. He's a veteran. He's here on a tryout. But Cedric Gray, Devondre Sweat called the huddle. Cedric Gray went over and he called the play. And to do that and then turn around, and obviously it's not full speed, but to turn around and still, know where you're supposed to be and then reach up and come on, big fella.
Yeah.
Get in that gap and do that already. I think that's impressive.
Kind of like an 11-on-11 walkthrough, faster pace walkthrough.
It was just the 11.
Okay.
It wasn't the
Oh,
offense.
okay, got it.
So they had coaches kind of and just assistant, just guys,
sure,
like chick
bodies,
and those, kind of acting out the motions and stuff, just to see how these guys would communicate and how he did it well. Now there were a couple times, and we got to see Denard Wilson. He told him, "Shut the F up.
Yeah.
When I'm talking, all eyes on me." So you got to see that fire from him. And I just think Cedric Gray, that's going to be something to watch and that's why I asked Brian Callahan about how they're going to monitor him, because he literally, as I said, has all this stuff on his head. Then to have him play fast, and he played fast at North Carolina, like that was his trademark, sideline to sideline. You got to give that a chance to develop. So.
Yeah, and that seems to be, the theme of the defense is going to be sideline to sideline. It's Cedric Gray moves well that way. Devondre Sweat moves well.
He's running down the line and making plays.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bad day to be a running back against Big T Sweat, they call him. But speaking with the assistant coaches as well, TD, because obviously we spoke to Levis. We had Brian Callahan twice this week, not to be confused with Bill, as J.C. Latham confused the two of them today at the podium. I'm sure it's going to happen a couple of times. The amount of overwhelming support for Treylon Burks from the coaching staff on the heels of Tyler Boyd, not yet officially signed, but all but signed at this point. And he's tweeting, "Tighten up. It's coming." So we're just waiting for pen to paper. I wonder what you made of the conversation with Tyke Tolbert and the support that's being echoed about the role or lack of diminished role that Treylon Burks is going to have here. My initial thought was, they have a different role envisioned than the previous coaching staff. So they're not thinking that he's going to be in a diminished role because they already have that envisioned, and Boyd is a different role. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, Boyd. And if you remember, and everybody made this big thing, and this is why I say, don't always try to read the tea leaves, right? If somebody says something,
I'm in sports radio, TD. You can't tell me not to read the tea leaves.
There are times when it's necessary,
I know
and
what
there's
you mean.
times when it's not.
Yeah.
Right. And so when Brian Callahan in that room right there said somebody needs to step up as the dedicated slot receiver,
and didn't bring up Burks.
Didn't mention Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
That's not an indictment on Burks. And that's what I try to tell people. It doesn't mean that. He's just saying they need a slot receiver to step up. That was April 10th. May 7th, was it? May 6th?
Yeah.
They signed Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd is the guy to step up as the dedicated slot receiver. That's really all it boils down to. Burks is, as he said, Callahan said, and Nicole said, they're going to move him around, just like the other guys. There's a rotation. Having done it before, I could tell you run a go route, you're going to want to come out. You know what I mean?
Need a few snaps off.
Yeah. So he's going to get his snaps. It's going to be fine. You don't have to trade him. They have a role for him, play action, deep shots, gadgets, and stuff like that. I envision, and the reason why I say that is because Tyke Tolbert said, you killed Alabama DBs. You killed LSU DBs. who you going to face in the
They're
league?
still out there.
Right. And so you look at the way Arkansas used. Now, I would imagine that you want to see some of those things more. Just a package to get him the football, make something happen. This is your opportunity, maximize it.
Well, and just the way that what I'm curious about, and I'm not going to pretend to be any kind of schematic expert, but just creating windows to throw into that gives these guys the opportunities to win rather than asking them to win on ISO routes. Just win one-on-one constantly over and over again. We see Shanahan, we see O'Connell, we see McDaniel creating these windows to throw into to create that, help them create that separation beyond what the player is able to create themselves. That's how they figure that out, how they go about putting the puzzle pieces together with the depth that they have now. Yeah. I'm fascinated to find out. And the idea that anybody would be pro trading Treylon Burks as far as the Titans fan base, it just seems so short-sighted to me, because the thing that this team has lacked is not just top-end talent, it's depth all over the place. And now you're trying to sell it off for what, a 7th rounder?
And it's low-cost depth.
Yeah, it's cost-effective. You can't get better than cost-effective depth, because somebody's going to take a chance on a former first-round pick. For God's sakes, Isaiah Wilson got traded for a 7th-round pick.
This team signed Andre Dillard last year. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you have that first-round sticker on you, you're always going to get an opportunity.
So elsewhere, coming into rookie minicamp, and I know you and you talk about a lot of different draft prospects throughout the course of the pre-draft process on the Talking with TD podcast. Subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, I looked at the UDFA list that we got, the official confirmed list today, rather than the scattershot reporting that you see. Is there anybody in particular that you came into rookie minicamp looking out for, how you might have prioritized the different positions or players that you were looking at? How'd you kind of go about it today?
Yeah, so the 2 tight ends, Temple tight end David, I want to say Martin Anderson, I believe it is, and Steve Siciliano from Iowa. I wanted to see them. Didn't get to make it over there, but yeah, you got them. There's an undrafted free agent, Rutgers D lineman. He wore number 76 today.
Isaiah Aiton?
Yes. He was impressive.
Yes.
He was impressive. He was lining up next to Tavondre Sweat. And when I say he's impressive, I'm just talking about like how he struck the bag.
Sure.
Even just his body, like seeing it is very lean. He was impressive. But yeah, I mean, the tight ends, those were the ones that I was looking at, curious about. But like I said, I didn't make it over there.
Yeah, skill positions players are going to be interesting across the board this year. And we talked to Will Levis yesterday, and I believe you also asked him the question about not just getting the parts around him to elevate him further, but him further elevating the pieces around him. And TD, that seems like the kind of gear that Titans fans were stuck in for a little while with Ryan Tannehill. The idea of, I talked about this on the radio show before, the idea of Daniel Jeremiah's trucks and trailers, right? Are you a truck or are you a trailer? And Tannehill's fit more the trailer mold. We're trying to figure out if Will Levis can be the kind of player that lifts the rest of them beyond just himself getting elevated. The two things should work in concert, but the talent that he has, it kind of lends itself to that projection of you thinking he's going I think collectively us thinking that he's going to be able to do more.
I was thinking, my eyes kind of rolled into my head because I was thinking of the cross field throw to Nick Westbrook-Ikini.
Yeah.
And that's an example of making somebody better, like being able to make that throw like that. Then you look at some of the other throws. Actually, we talked about Treylon Burks. I mean, look, it's in Pittsburgh. They're playing Renegade. That stadium's rocking. It's like, I think it was 4th down.
Yeah, and that's his second start.
Yeah, second start. First road start. 4th and like 13. They're in the huddle. Renegades playing. They break the huddle. Renegades off. Deep out. Treylon Burks right there. The way it was where it needed to be. So that's making a player better. And I think that's what we can expect from Will Levis. We're going to see more of that.
What was the biggest question that you had for the assistant coaches, maybe across the board? Look at that man over there. He just got done with me on a mic. Grant Carthon.
He just got done cooking.
I can't believe you put the chef hat on.
Hey, man.
TD was in the house for the live show on Friday with Rand. We're at the Titans facility if you're just now joining the podcast. So, it's kind of like a Sports Center commercial around here. You run into all your favorite sports figures walking around the hallways at work. But yeah, the chef hat bit, I hate to give Bert credit for anything, but that was pretty nice.
Yeah. And you know what? He's a secret weapon. He's a secret weapon.
In what context for the audience?
So in the context for the audience is, we'll use the Calvin Ridley example. And he told the story. He got on the phone. Like, Ridley was basically like, okay, Jaguars, Titans, Jaguars. Gets on the phone with Rand. It's a conversation. What, he say, 2 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, I'm in. So we go from there to here. That's a secret weapon. And there's other stuff I know from in San Francisco, not talking to Rand, but talking to other people that he did with players and stuff like that. He's a secret weapon.
You feel it at every level. I think when you talk to these guys, the free agents, the players that are on the roster, existing, the incumbents, and the new draft class that's coming in.
Jarvis Brownlee Jr. said he had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, man, yeah.
Oh, or even, what was it, Jalen Harrell, that Rand was giving him shit about Metro PCS. You know, he couldn't get the phone call to go through. They need to get him better service. Like, there's that level of relationship and kind of building towards a cause and just somebody that you can have that personal connection with, no matter what stage of life that you're in, that we've heard about the relationship building and what a pro it is as far as what Rand helps bring to the table for any organization. Calling Deebo Samuel and said, Deebo, I think he said at the live show, Deebo said, I'm going to help you get D-Hop. But this Calvin Ridley guy that's working out here with us too, you need to keep your eye out and stuff like that, just to be able to make those calls, have those connections, and have guys speak freely with you. That is not the case with a lot of, at least, different kind of, I don't want to say generation, but like, there's a couple of different types of people that work in football. And I think we're talking about somebody who's prioritizing people as much as they are, the commoditization of players.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great point. And there's a reason why years ago when he was in Florida, they called him the mayor of Gainesville. You know what I mean? Because he has a good way of, and I think taking that skill, however he acquired it, and moving it into this field it's huge.
Yeah. So we'll have about a week off. It sounds like we will, at least. I don't know what they're going to be doing here as they work their way through the voluntary program. It'd be 2 weeks before we get any kind of media availability. What are you going to be working on for ESPN.com? What are people going to be keeping an ear out for on the Talking with TD podcast?
I'm going to be spending some time with Will Levis in the next few days. So there's some background that I'm working on. I want to do a story on him. I want to do something on Cedric Gray too. So we'll just see how that works. Nothing in particular over the next week, but background stuff. That's what I'll be working on.
Well, that's why you go to TD for the insights, for the background, for all the analysis. The Talking with TD podcast, ESPN.com is where you read the main man. Buddy, I appreciate you hanging out as always. Sure. All right. We appreciate you guys showing up and showing out. Like the video on your way out the door. Bert will see you out on the way. I'm sure he'll put a terrible video up of me or a picture to end the podcast because what more way to buy? Which defensive player stands to benefit most from the coaching change? Poipol Neupel. Bert, I know you're laughing as hard at that as I am. I ain't going not.